Hi everyone, this is Natraj. I back with another video. Today I am going to talk about that implement Kubernetes resource limit and the quota on that AWS EKS. So when we are working with the container in the Kubernetes, it is a main important to know about what are that resource involved or some other process will be required more CPU or memory than others. But if someone is forgot to configure the resource limit, in that case, the pod will be take too much resource which can lead to other container getting no resource to start. To avoid this, if you are the product owner, the first you have to create the own namespace, do whatever they want in this namespace only you have to work on it. Then you have to create that resource quota and limit range assigned to that resource on the namespace and set the limit for the container running that inside the any namespace. The resource quota is totally available for that particular namespace. Limit is used to assign the pod running the inside the namespace. You can see the thing, the CPU measured unit. Be aware of the CPU calculation formula differing with the each projects. The CPU resource are measured in that millicode. Example, if the node has 2 core, that the node CPU capacity would have representing as that 2000 millicore. The unit, the suffix they call as that m standard, so equivalent to of the thousands of the core. The core equivalent is different with that cloud. In AWS they call as the 1 CPU, in Azure they call as 1 core, Google Cloud they call as a core. In this example, on 4 core node, 16 pod each having the 250 millicore can run on that particular node. Keep it in mind if the application will be start throttling once they hitting that CPU limits. So throttling can affect your application performance by making it run slower. So you will not able to terminate those application, hence we have to take that considerations. So also you have to know about that how to calculate the CPU core to the millicores. I provide the calculation below. The current millicore usage equal to percentage divided by equal to core into thousands. So this is a way we can able to calculate that millicores. Let's move to that next slide. Memory measurement unit. So the memory is measured in the byte. So you can express the memory with various suffix gigabytes, mi, gigabyte and terabyte. So for example, 1 megabyte equal to 0.48 megabytes. One of the most important that the pod will be never scheduled if they require the more resource than capacity of the node. So also the pod will be terminated if they reach the memory limits. So we have to consider about this one. Then we are going to implement the function as a follow. So first we are going to create the namespace. In my case, I am provided the kind object is a namespace here. The metadata, the name I am allocating the namespace for that quota example. So let's move to that next page. The step 2, set the resource quota. After creating the namespace, we can use the resource quota object to limit down the total amount of resource by the namespace. In this YAML file, there are kind object, the resource quota we are defining. We are allocating the name called the quota. The specs, the limit.cpu is that maximum CPU core limit for all the pod in the namespace. Limit.memory is the maximum memory limit for all the pod in the namespace. Request.cpu is the maximum CPU millicore allocating for all the pod in the namespace. As per that YAML file, we have the 5 containers with 600 MB request or 10 containers with 300 MB request. Total request CPU in the namespace should be lesser than 3000 MB. Request.memory is the maximum memory allocating for all the pod in the namespace. As per the YAML, we have the 5 container with 200 MB request or 10 container with 100 MB request or 1 container with 1000 MB request. In the pod section, maximum number of the pod we are allocating in that namespace. In our case, we are provided with the 10, but the maximum we are allocating for 10 pod only in this YAML file. Moving to the next slide. Step 3. Set the limit range. Limit range is the object in our namespace which can be used to set the limit on the resource on the pod running with the namespace. In this YAML file, we have the 2 sections. The first one is the default section. Next one is the default request section. The default section will be set up the default limit for the container in the namespace. The any container with no limit defined, so will be get the default value assigning from the default section itself. Next one is that default request section will be set up the default request for the container in the pod. The any container with a no request defined will be get the default assigning value by the default. So moving to the next slide. Right now I am at the terminal. In my case I am provisioning my EKS cluster already. Also that I cloned my entire code from my GitHub repo. This code is available on that publicly, so you can download from anytime. I provide the URL in the descriptions. So I'm moving to my Visual Studio Code. So here readme file, I'll come with a simplification purpose. I come with a step-by-step approach. So we'll be going to executing that one by one command. This is a resource management part. So first I'm going to create the namespace as called quota.example. So just I copy this command. I'll go to my terminal. I paste it here. Yeah, now I'm going to create that namespace. Now I'm going to view that namespace with the help of kubectl command get ns. Yeah, the quota example namespace is created. So now I'm going to set the resource quota, that is limit for computing resource used on this namespace. I copy this entire command. I paste it here. Yes, I entered it. Yeah, now the resource quota is created. Here I'm checking that resource quota is effective or not. So I copied this command. This is a description command. Enter it. Yeah, you can see the quota system is automatically prevent that more than 4 pod in the namespace, because the resource quota limit and the total number of CPU and memory limit is requested. Checking that if default request and limit pod is working or not, just I am copying this command here. So I paste it here, this one. Here I am trying to create the pod in the namespace, does not specify that request and the limit. Maybe the pod creation has failed. Let us see. This time I entered this command. Yeah, deployment command is executed. So I check that pod status with the help of this command. Okay, it be showing us no resource found. Then we can debug further with the help of the describe command. Yeah, here also it is not showing anything more information, so we will be checking on that replica set level. So here I'm going to view that replica set value with the help of that describe command. Here I just copied the things. So you have to make sure about while placing the things, because the replica set value having some coming with it some unique number, you have to provide this one. In my case 67, so I provided a similar thing. Just I enter it here. You can see that the forbidden error message. We have to must to specify that limit range for memory and CPU, because the master is rejected for the creation of the pod by this replica set, because that request limit and the CPU memory limits are not specified in this pod. So to avoid this failure, we have to create the limit range to provide that value of the resource configuration for all the pod in that namespace. So we are going to create the limit range. I'll copy this command. Yeah, so I'm going to create the things. Yeah, now limit range is created. Suppose the user trying to create the pod in that namespace without specifying the resource limit, the system is automatically it be set considered with that default resource limit for that pod. So we are going to create that pod along with that resource limit. So here you can see I provided the request limit and the memories also. So just I copied this entire one. I executed in the terminal. Yeah, that command is successfully executed. Yeah, the flag will be showing as the deprecated but anyway, so you no need to worry about now. Now I'm going to evaluate whether this pod is up and running or not. Just I copied that kubectl get pod command along with the namespace. Yeah, you can check it now. The both pod is up and running. The earlier one of the pod is showing as a forbidden error, no, that also running on, because as I said earlier, no, if you are not perceived the resource limit, it will be considered with the default resource limit of the pod. So now I'm going to check that that resource quota usage. Just I copied this command, enter it. Yeah, you can see that each pod is consumed the specific amount of the resource when it is created. That's all in this video. Hopefully this video will be helpful to everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye.